All right, I recently purchased a 5060 Ti 16 gigabyte card. And yes, I managed to get one right before the prices went up like they are now, because I would not pay the price they're asking for it now. I paid $429 for it, and I was kind of hesitant then. So, yeah. All right. Now, the biggest reason why I went ahead and got the 5060 Ti is because my 3080 Ti actually quit. It needs to, I think the core needs reballed. You know how those heavy cards, they sag in the slot and the board bends and the cores, sometimes the little solder joints break loose. I think that's what happened. All right. But I think it cost me about $150 to get it repaired when I finally get around to getting it done. All right. Now let's go ahead and do some benchmarks. And I will be comparing the 3060 12 gigabyte to the 5060 Ti. 2 generations newer, but it's the same tier card. All right. I'm going to be using the Blender benchmark for this first test, and I will have it set to 4.5 because that's what I use normally for my everyday Blender usage. And we'll be using the Monster Junk Shop and Classroom scene. And I'm going to put this on 3060 Ti. And then over here, this is the stats for the GPU that I'm going to be using at the time. And I will be documenting the max current or power draw as well. I'm going to go ahead and click reset and then start benchmark. And I will be fast forwarding through these in order to save a little bit of time. All right, 125 watts is what I'm going to put down. And the monster was 1013. The junk was 652. And classroom is 580. For a grand total of $2245. All right, now I'm going to rerun this test by using the 3060, pardon me, the 5060 Ti. And looks like 111 watts peak. And keep in mind, the 5060 Ti is running the displays and the screen capture also, and it still used 14 watts less max. All right, now let's write down these other scores. 1896, 1896, 1058, and 1061 for a total of 1896 plus 1058 plus 1061 equals 4015. That's not bad. Almost twice as powerful, a little bit less. But like I said before, at least I think I mentioned it, it's probably going to take a 2 to 3% performance hit because it's running the displays and also running the screen capture. All right, now let's move on to an actual Blender scene. Open. And this right here is a very simple scene. Edit, preferences, and make sure it's set to the 3060, and we'll do optics first. All right, change this over. And then change this to highest. And I believe that's it. Double checking, making sure, and render image. Oh, well, that explains why the GPU ain't doing nothing. It's set to CPU. Well, if you're curious, 9950X would do it in 20 seconds. Now let's try this one more time. Reset, render image. Now that's more like it. 112 watts. And it did it in 9 seconds. And let's change it over to CUDA. Reset, render image. All right, 115 watts. So let's actually, I'm just going to put 115, separate them by space. And that's 14 seconds. All right, now let's change this over to the 5060 and do the same thing. Reset, render image. Six seconds. Now you can see on the short renders like this that having a more powerful GPU doesn't make a huge difference. All right. Well, actually, I need to redo that because I didn't have it set to highest. I want to document. Well, actually, I just changed it. 98 watts is what it did. Duh. 98, and then space, and then we'll put it on CUDA. And I do need a reset here. Render image. I'm going to go ahead and round up 10 seconds. And that was 95 watts. Huh. I wonder if this is going to be a common theme, because over here the peak power on CUDA was higher, but over here the peak power on CUDA was lower. Just kind of curious if that's going to hold up throughout the rest of the test. All right, now that's done. So I'll be doing the 3060 next. And file, well, let me close this. So file, open. Nope, don't want to save. This is the barbershop scene. And let me change this to GPU before I do anything. Edit preferences. And we'll be doing the 3060 first in optics. And make sure that's set over here. Change this to highest. And reset, render image. One thing is for sure, you will not have any melting cable or, like the power plug for the GPU. You won't have to worry about anything melting on a 3060 or 5060 Ti. That's almost one of those problems I kind of wish I had, like, a melting 5090 cable. Yeah. Because, yeah, I can't imagine spending $3,000 or $4,000 for a 5090. That's insanity. Anyway, back to the test and fast forward to save time. All right, it'll be done rendering in about 6 seconds. 120 watts. And let's see here. That was 2 minutes and 24 seconds. So it's 144 seconds. And let's change this over to CUDA. We'll hit reset and then render image. And fast forwarding now. All right, be done in a few more, about 8 more seconds. 123 watts. And that's 180, 230 seconds. All right, now let's change over to the 5060 Ti. And double check, make sure everything's ready, and render image. And gonna fast forward now. All right, it'll be done in about 8 more seconds. 105 watts. That's one thing I really like about the 5060 Ti. It's not power hungry at all. All right, and that's 1 minute 30 seconds, 90 seconds. All right, now let's change this over to CUDA, reset, render image, and gonna fast forward. All right, it looks like it's gonna be done in about 5 more seconds. And it looks like, once again, it used a little bit less power in CUDA than it did in optix. 98 watts. And that's 200, or 2 minutes 43 seconds. So it's 163 seconds. All right. Now let's move on to the pavilion. File, open, new. Make sure it's set to GPU, edit preferences. And we'll change this over to the 3060. All right, let me double check, make sure everything's correct, and render image. 122 watts. And that was, I'm going to go ahead and round up to 42 on that. 42 seconds. Now change this over to CUDA, reset, render image. All right, it should be done in about 5 more seconds. All right, 122 watts, just like with the optix. And that was 2 minutes and 8 seconds, so it's 128 seconds. And let's go ahead and change over to the 5060 Ti. And make sure everything's correct, and render image. 22 seconds. It's 115 watts. 115 and 22 seconds. Let me change this over to CUDA, reset, render image. All right, it's going to be done in about 8 more seconds. I'm just going to go ahead and round that up to 92, unless that changes. Nope, didn't change. 92 watts. And CUDA, that's 1 minute 25 seconds, so that's 85 seconds. All right, let's open that one, number 5. Let me close this. File, open. Of course, all of these are opening through the network. So, and actually I'm using Wi-Fi right now because I had to pull my Ethernet card out in order to fit the extra GPU in there. So yeah, sacrifices, you know. All right, let's edit preferences, and we'll do optics first, but for the 3060. Make sure everything is correct. All right, render image. There you go. 116 watts. 116. And that was 1 minute 42 seconds, or 102 seconds. All right, let's change this over to CUDA. Reset, render image. All right, 116 watts again. And that was 2 minutes and 38 seconds, so that's 158 seconds. All right, let's go change over to the 5060. Yeah. All right, render image. There you go. 111 watts. Not bad. And that was 61 seconds. All right, now go over to CUDA, reset, render image, changes. There you go, 100 watts. And it was 96 seconds. All right, now let's move on to the sheep. Go ahead and change this over to 3060 while I'm thinking about it. File, open, number 6. And let's set this to GPU. Edit, preferences. Bring us down here. Switch over to the 3060. All right, set this to max or highest. And I do believe we're ready. Just double checking everything. All right, render image. All righty, it just finished. 124 watts. And that was 1 minute 59 seconds, so 119 seconds. And let's change this over to CUDA. Hit reset, render image, and fast forwarding now. All right, I wanted to break in here and point something out. This 3060, the only thing it's doing right now is rendering. It's not doing anything else. And look, it used over 8 gigabytes for this scene. That's because all these hair particles. Now, this scene will not completely fit on an 8 gigabyte card. An 8 gigabyte card will render it, but it will have to swap some of the memory in and out of system memory. So that's why I don't recommend 8 gigabyte cards anymore. Of course, this being a 12 gigabyte card, it doesn't have any issues, and the 5060 being a 16 gigabyte card also doesn't have any issues. It being the 16 gigabyte card is one of the main reasons I got the 5060 Ti 16 gigabyte card. They have the 8 gigabyte version, but in terms of performance, they're identical, except one has 16 gigs. But the 16 gigabyte version kind of future-proofed me just a little bit. And if the prices ever come back down in the 400s, like around 429, like what I pay for this one, I may end up getting another 5060 Ti. Because so far I really like the card. It's just, it's not a very powerful card, but it's a very capable card. And the fact that the 16 gigs makes a big difference in terms of its selling point, and the low power consumption makes a big difference. All right, it's got about a couple seconds left. All right, there you go. 122 watts. And it was 4 minutes and 32 seconds, so it's 240, 252, 252 seconds. All right, let's change over to the 5060 Ti. We double check everything. It's ready to go, I believe. All right, render image. Now, once it actually builds the scene, it should be halfway decent. I want to point this out real quick. It's running less than 60 degrees C with a mere 42% fan speed. Cool running card, I tell you that. All right, 105 watts. And that was 69 seconds. So decently quicker. It changes over to CUDA. Reset. Render image. And look how much longer it takes CUDA. It takes it to build the scene in CUDA. I don't know what kind of magic is going on in the background to make optics so much quicker. But yeah, it only takes maybe 10, 15 seconds for it to start rendering using optics. But whenever you're doing CUDA, I mean, I'm already up to 24 seconds, 25, and I hadn't even started yet. And that's with a 9950X running 5.1 gigahertz all core. All right, I'm going to go ahead and fast forward, being that this is showing 3 minutes plus remaining. Now I want to break in real quick and point something else out. See, right now, being that this 5060 Ti is also running the displays, it's using over 10 gigabytes of VRAM. Yeah, an 8 gigabyte card would struggle with this, and it would be very slow. In my opinion, a 12 gigabyte card is the minimum, and 16 and up is preferred. But me personally, I can't imagine buying something with less than 16 gigabytes anymore. All right, it's about finished. Has about 5 seconds left. All right, that's 88 watts. That's very low. And it was 3 minutes, 36 seconds. So that's 180 plus 36, 216 seconds. Now check this out. It wasn't much faster than the 3060. It was faster, but not much faster. Now, in CUDA, but in the optics, it was almost twice as fast. That's interesting. I wonder why. Anyway, now the next one is my own Blender benchmark scene. And if you're interested in downloading this, let me show you where you can download it. I'm on the other screen. All right, you can basically go to my channel, and if you click on more right here, this link right here, just copy and paste it, and that will take you to a place where you can download this benchmark scene. Now, I already have it downloaded, obviously. I think it's in downloads. Yeah, right here. Now, this is an actual recreation of my bedroom from the house I used to live in. And this is a heavy scene. It's going to take 20 minutes with the 3060. So I definitely will be fast forwarding. So I'm going to go ahead and change this over to the 3060. We'll do optics first. Change this over to highest. Click reset. Render image. Fast forwarding now. All right, it looks like it's going to be finished in about 20 seconds. And if you look over here, 3060 temperatures, great temperatures, less than 60 C. And that's on a 17.5 minute render, 120 watts. So there we go. It's finished. Let's document this. 120. And let's see, it's 1723. So just to make sure I don't mess up, 17 times 60 plus 23 equals 1043 seconds. All right, now let's change this over to CUDA and we'll do the test one more time. Reset, render image, and this should take longer than 20 minutes. So definitely fast forwarding. Alrighty, it's almost done. Got about just a few more seconds left. 117 watts. And that's 2349. Let me do the math. 23 times 60 plus 49 equals 1429. 1429. All right, now let's move over to the 5060. All right, reset, render image, and fast forwarding now. All right, this is just about finished rendering in optics with the 5060 Ti. Got a couple seconds left. 9 minutes and 59 seconds, slightly below 10 minutes. So that's 559 seconds. 559 and 106 watts max. All right, now change this over to CUDA, hit reset, render image. And I'm fast forwarding now. All right, it's almost finished. Got about 6 seconds left. There you go, 97 watts. And that would be 961 seconds. All right, let me go ahead and close this, and I'll close this, and I'll make these a little bit longer so all the results show up. And these are the results. I'm going to do the math real quick and find an average percentage of performance increase. So I'm going to fast forward while doing the math. All right, now I've done the math, and with the 3060 doing nothing but rendering and the 5060 Ti running the monitors, running the screen capture, and rendering, it's 48.3% faster than the 3060. I actually thought it was going to be more than that. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to do this at a different point when I'm not recording. I'm going to do it again, but with the GPU swapped position. That way I can see what the 5060 Ti does when it's only doing rendering, and then compare those results to these results, so I can get a percentage difference of how much of a hit the running the monitors and the screen capture creates. But I will probably put that information basically here. If you don't see it, I'll probably put it in a pinned comment. But anyway, I guess that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Later, people.